Hi everyone, I'm Miss Lydia from the Boston Library. Thank you so much for joining me for our craft project. Today we are making some Easter decorations. So I have two quick and easy projects to show you. The first one involves a bunny template, some old book pages, some yarn, scissors, a pencil, and a hole punch is helpful but not entirely necessary, and some cotton balls. So our first step in this project, we're going to make a garland out of these supplies. We have to cut out our template. You can size it as big or as small as you want. You just want to picture where you're going to be hanging this garland. Also make sure that you have it big enough that you can get your yarn through it. So we're going to be punching holes in the tops of each of the bunny ears to pass this through so that we can hang our garland. Once I have my bunny template cut out, I'm simply going to trace it onto my book pages. So depending on the size of the page that you're using, you may be able to get one or two of them per page. And you're just going to lay that down and trace it out with a pencil. Once I have my template traced out, I'm going to cut it out. Depending again on the thickness of your pages, you may be able to get a few of them in at a time. So I'm going to stack 2 or 3 of them together. Saves time in your cutting. And then just holding that stack really tightly together, I'm going to cut my bunnies out. I have a stack of about 10 bunnies here that I've cut out. I'm going to divide that in half just to make it a little easier on the hole punch. And I'm going to punch out 2 holes, one in the top of each ear. You want to go down far enough into this that your string is not going to rip through. But you want to be kind of pretty close to being even across both ears. After that's done, I'm going to take my yarn and get that set to go. Don't cut it yet because you don't know exactly how long your garland's going to be. And you're just going to feed that string or yarn through the ears. And you want to be fairly careful with this, especially if you're using dictionary pages because they're very easy to rip. When I have my length figured out, I can go ahead and cut that string. At some point it might become easier to add them on to the other side just because it's hard to continue to feed them down without ripping them. My very last step on this project is to add the cotton ball tails. So I'm just going to add a small dab of glue right towards the bottom on each bunny. And then I'm going to stick on a cotton ball. You can probably pull them in half depending on how big you want those tails to be. You can kind of reshape them a little bit. And then as you get those tails on, you can just slide it down and continue working through. The nice thing about this is that these pieces aren't fixed, so you can space them out once you have your garland hung. They are pretty flexible. And here you can see our finished bunny garland. Of course, you can use any type of paper that you want for this. So if you have decorative scrap paper, if you have construction paper, if the kids want to draw pictures of bunnies, you can do whatever type of design you want for this. For our next craft, we're going to follow a similar process to what we did with the snowmen and penguins from earlier, but this time we're going to make a bunny. So I have a sock, and I'm going to use a glass just to kind of help me fill it. And I'm going to place that sock down inside and kind of put the top of it over so that I can fill that sock. I have my rice here. You could use beans or sand if you wanted to also, if you had a really tight weave on the sock. Rice just happens to work the best. So I'm going to just carefully pour in lots and lots of rice. And then try to stuff that down in. At a certain point in the process, you're going to have to take that out and probably fill it by hand. Another option is to pour your rice right into the glass and then kind of do the reverse so that you're not spilling it. So you're going over the top of that and then pouring it all into there. Once you have a pretty good sized ball on the bottom of that, you're going to take a rubber band and close off the top. And then you're going to shape it and find a neck for your rabbit. Use another rubber band for that. You can take another rubber band and fashion a tail right out of the same sock, or you can use a cotton ball, which is what I'm going to do. Again, gluing that onto the back, just like we did with the garland. And then it's time to make his ears. So we're going to cut off a good share of this top part here. Remember, you can always cut off more, you can't cut it back on. And then I'm going to try to visualize his ears. So I'm going to lay them right down and then cut this top part into 2 pieces. You're left with something that looks a little ragged like that. You're going to shape those then into ears by cutting points into them. So I'm going to take this V, make sure that goes down just a little bit closer to my rubber band, and then I'm going to cut a point up to the top. After the bunny ears are finished, there are 2 final touches to add. So he needs a face, which we're going to use a Sharpie for, and he needs a decorative ribbon around him as well. So the decorative ribbon's just going to go right around his neck. That's real easy. You can use whatever you have on hand, something that is nice and springy. Just going to cut a piece of ribbon, tie it around, and put a little bow on it. For his face, I'm just going to add some eyes with my Sharpie. You could use googly eyes, of course, if you wanted to. And I'm going to give him a little X for his nose. And here you can see our finished sock bunny. The ears are a little tricky, so you may want to spend a little bit of time trying to figure out how to get those cut. I got a little bit narrow on mine, so this one keeps falling forward. It's also helpful if you have a sock that is all one solid color. The ones that I had to use had that little bit of gray on the heel and toe, so that does make it a little harder to plan out. The bottom's not too bad, that gets covered and you don't see that. But when you are cutting the ears, if the heel is a different color, it's going to show up kind of right behind those ears. I hope you enjoyed our Easter bunny crafts. If you have any questions, please comment below. I'll help you out. And I'd like to wish you a happy Easter from the Boston Free Library.